Let's do it. We've got Mark, no pronouns given, is calling us from Texas, and I think has evidence for God or Jesus. What's up, Mark? You're with Secular, Rarity and Richard Gilliver.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey. Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I was just curious. I've been a Christian all my life and still am. Most of my friends and family are Christians. And so I don't really come in contact with many atheists or agnostics as far as I'm aware of. I don't ask everyone. But and I thought, well, it'd be great to call in here and get your feedback on what type of, say, evidence would be required to, say, convince you and convince, other atheists that you're aware of, you talk to, on, say, the existence of God, the existence of Jesus, and really the second coming and a lot of what the Bible says. And the reason I ask this is because I believe that I have very, very empirical evidence for this, but I don't know how to present this, kind of, roll it out. And I need to be able to present this in a way that it would make sense to atheists.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I'm gonna let Richard answer. I'll give a quick answer. But then I honestly, I think we would love to hear some of this evidence too. Definitely. So, Richard, go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
What
Mark,
kind of evidence do you need?
First of all, Mark, I think this kind of call is what I think this show is made for, personally. And your humbleness and your honesty coming into this it's fantastic. For me personally, this is the ideal call. So I just want to put that out there to start with. So thank you for calling us. I find it very interesting that you came and said, you don't often interact with atheists. You don't get that chance, because I come from a place where there are religious people, but nobody talks about religion. Very few people are religious, and those that are really don't talk about it very much. So it's and this is leading somewhere. I'm not just rambling. So to kind of lead into your question as to what evidence would convince you, I think it's important to understand that not everywhere in the world has the same belief systems. Or even if they do believe in God, they don't believe in the same gods. And this is kind of the background that I've come from. I've come from a place where when I was growing up in the early 80s, when I was at school in the early 80s, we kind of generically had prayers and things in school. But they were the dying throes of Christianity in Britain. Nobody really believed them, even the teachers who were teaching us them. And we've come into this, and I grew up in a city which has a massive Muslim population. It's got a big Christian population. It's got a big Muslim population. Most of the people are atheist. They just simply don't talk about it in any way, shape, or form. And I think for me, when growing up from a very early age with all of that surrounding me, it's not been a case for me of specific evidence which would convince me that something is true. Because to answer that question directly, I would say sufficient evidence to demonstrate that God is true. But what that sufficient evidence would be, I cannot specifically say because I've not come across it. And I, as I said, I come from a multicultural society, and is it because your question was kind of in two parts for me. It was what would convince you God was true, and what would convince you that the Christian God was true and the Bible was true and the resurrection. They're different questions, and I don't think they can be answered in the same kind of category. Because I have this thing where I've got a Muslim here, and I've got a Christian here, and I've got a Buddhist here, and I've got a Hindu here, all telling me their particular God is true. And the thing for me is, let's establish a God can be true, a God is possible, and then we'll talk about which specific God is true. So that's, I know it's a vague answer. I know it's maybe not be exactly what you wanted, but that's my answer.
Yeah, and I'll be real quick, Mark. yeah, there's two parts of it that for me, again, one is this aspect of the specific thing, right? Like it's the specific fact of microwave background radiation that gives us, you know, evidence of blah 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 blah, Big Bang, blah blah blah,
Sure.
right? Okay, so that specific level of evidence, I don't know, because I'm like in Richard's boat where it's like, well, I don't think we've ever had good reason to believe in ghosts or God or magic or Bigfoot. But in general, what I
Sure.
can tell you, and this is where I think may be helpful for the question you're asking, in general, and I'll explain this, but I want the same thing that I want for everything else. I don't use a different method. It's all the same criteria for absolutely everything. For me to believe that somebody has a dog is the same criteria as for me to believe that a God exists. The difference is the level of specificity for the claim. Somebody tells me they have a dog, it's like, well, that's a heck of a lot more mundane than somebody telling me they have a dog that shoots laser beams out of their eyes. And then the dog that shoots laser beams that is actually invisible. And then the dog that shoots I mean, this is Sagan's dragon, right? And so I follow that pretty strictly in the sense of whatever claims are being presented to me, I'm going to pretty much go through the same stuff. And so the reason that I accept all these other things is not just because somebody had an experience once or it was written down in a book once or twice. It's because we had this thought in our head and we're like, oh, snap, maybe if we do this, this result will happen. And then we did that and it happened. And then we did it a billion times over. So yeah, that's kind of what I do every time. So hopefully some of that answers what your question is, and then, you know, shout us your thoughts back, and if we have something to go back and forth there, we can. Otherwise, yeah, let's get into some of this empirical evidence, man.
Well, no, I really appreciate that, guys. That's fantastic. That dog sounds awesome, by the way.
Yeah, seriously.
I wish I had a dog like that.
I think it was a Scotty. I think it was a Scotty, but I don't remember.
Yeah, you guys are right. You know, I will listen from time to time, say online, in your show, but also on YouTube. Say I'll listen to Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens, you know, debating an intelligent design expert, right, or a gospel expert. And many times I see this coming down to several arguments, and one of them consistently is, you know, what is your evidence, right, beyond faith, beyond the Gospels, and beyond the Bible, and beyond belief, right? And I understand that because growing up, you know, really a lot of it was based on faith, and you know, and then you start reading the Bible, and many of the stories are based on dreams, prophecy, you know, things like a revelation, which is not very empirical. And I have to admit that, right? So a lot of it is faith-based. You just got to kind of believe that there is a supernatural God, which I absolutely do. But about a year ago, I can tell you that I received absolute mind-blowing, mind-bending empirical evidence, have about 100, a little over 100 pieces of empirical evidence. Each one of those, I think, would absolutely prove God exists. And not only God, but Jesus is Christianity really is the primary type of, I guess, religion or type of denomination out there.
Can I jump in real quick, Mark?
Yeah.
You said something. I just want to because I love it. I'm with you. I'd love to just start trying to go through at least one or two of these. I doubt we can get through all 100, you know. But before we even go through the first one, because what it sounds like to me is you're saying, look, SR Gilliver, I've got like 100 pieces of evidence all stacked on each other that makes me believe. Is it a collective thing in the sense that because you have so many of these pieces, that's what makes you believe? Or is it each one individually that makes you believe and you just also have additional? Does that make sense?
Each one individually. Yes, absolutely.
So here's perfect. Hang on, Mark, real quick, because I got another follow-up, because that's perfect.
Absolutely.
Glad to know. Honestly, either answer would have been perfectly fine, because my next question now is, if that's the case, if each one of these 100 incidences individually makes you believe, then have the question of, if we go through even just one today and to your satisfaction can prove that this one is shaky enough to not be believed just yet, potentially, would that make you stop believing?
No, no. I spent a little over a year going, very deliberately and detailed through these, pieces of evidence that I have. I haven't finished yet, and much more is being revealed many times as I continue to review. And so, as I'm doing this, I thought, well, one of my concerns is that since I'm a believer, right, that Jesus is coming back, and absolutely it's revealed that he is coming back and he's very close now. And this is not just, hey, it's my belief or faith, or I had a dream, or I had a car accident, went to the hospital and met Jesus and came back. None of that at all. This is highly empirical evidence. Keep in mind, I'm a scientist.
Cool.
I'm a scientist.
We're with Mark.
So I'm a very empirical guy.
Yeah.
Mark, on that basis, because I wanted to ask you this anyway, but especially now we've stated that you're a scientist, I especially want to ask you, what is the definition you're using for empirical evidence?
Well, it's measurements. It's pictorial evidence. It's much of it is also lies in the origination of this is through metaphysics as well, and so I'm trying to talk with, say, particle physics experts, theologians, atheists, trying to get information from different groups to how to assess this and how to eventually present this to the world, or to people who will listen. And really, it's interesting. My main, I guess, audience, or people I'm trying to get to, are what we consider lukewarm Christians kind of on the fence. They believe, but not really, sort of on the fence. And also, say, atheists who
Mark,
are willing to listen. Yes.
If we can just go, because I think, honestly, I think, this call is just like the last one we took, this episode. It's a great call, and I'm super into it. I feel like it's been a good back and forth. Let's go through one of these pieces of evidence, man. And we're not, again, Richard and I are not going to be, jumping down your throat and harping on every little word and all, but we actually want to understand. And if we find something that seems incorrect to us, we're going to push back on it. But yeah, give us one, maybe your favorite, or just one you're really versed in, like.
Well, there's so many, it'd be great.
We'll take one.
Because I'm developing.
Give us the best one. Give us the best.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'm concerned about talking about this right now without this fully kind of being able to be presented and backed up. And I'm doing this now. This is one of the reasons I've called here, so I can get an understanding of atheists, right, and their thinking. And
Mark, honestly, just real quick, just because we've got a few other calls for sure, and we got some other things to get through and stuff. But honestly, man, like I'm a little bummed. I would have loved to have gone through some of them, but I'm not, honestly. This is good. This is a good moment, I think, and I'm glad we've got this recorded, because this is a moment on both sides where theist, atheist, agnostic, Hindu, whatever. It's good that we take a moment and we all go, hey, you know what? Let me humble myself just a little bit. Maybe this isn't ready to be presented. No worries, dude. Go back, get your thoughts all in order. Hit us up on the Fan Run Facebook page, the Fan Run Discords, or just call us back next week, or 2 weeks from now, Mark. We absolutely respect the crap out of that, because I would rather somebody come here and say, look, man, I've got these 5 points and I'm kind of not finished with them, but I want to ask a couple of questions to clarify, and then I'm going to come back with all of them. We love that, Mark. So yeah, dude, go off, take a little bit of time. And see whenever Richard and I are on again, or whoever the heck the hosts are, because we've got great people on here. So I know Dan or Ben or Christy, Jim. All these people would love to take this call, man. So we're gonna appreciate
this. Go ahead, please.
No. Finish up, and we'll let you go.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate that, guys. I definitely will call back. I really appreciate this conversation. I think these will be mind-boggling. Can't wait
Sweet.
to show this to you. It's very, very near now, but this conversation today really helped me a lot as well to be able to package this correctly.
Awesome, Mark. Well, thank you so much for giving us a call, and seriously, we appreciate that, and I'm excited. I would rather that, Richard, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I would prefer that somebody come to a conversation and say, hey, I've got some thoughts, but they're not fully fleshed out. Maybe I need to take an extra minute and think on them. So
yeah. I was very excited for Mark's call as soon as I kind of heard his initial introduction. So yeah, give us a call back when you've had the time to think about it. And this is right up my alley. So look out for when I'm on and give me a call back, please.
Yeah, definitely. And you've been on a lot lately. You're just everywhere, man.
I apologize to everyone.